Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Tuesday night, Tuesday the 19th of May, 2020. Welcome. Now listen, the Fed's finally come out and done it. You know what? I've been saying for years on my channel, all these people out there have been hoarding dollars away and saving dollars and everything, right? And they're also invested in the dollar, like maybe in the stock market or money market funds or mutual funds or whatever. It's all connected to the dollar. And I've been saying for a long time in my show that one thing that they're missing is that it's unlimited how much dollars that the Fed can actually create within the system. Well, the Fed's finally come up and done it. They've come out and they've admitted it, that they're going to. How much more do you need to know? And, what kind of environment is this for cryptocurrencies? This is what cryptocurrencies have been waiting for, that it's going to thrive on, is this excess money creation, you know? But on the opposing side of this, we see the system deflating all over the place. You got like 50 million people out of work right now, don't have a job. They don't have money to spend, excess money to spend on the economy. We see businesses shutting down left and right, At the same time, we have the government in a money creation cycle that's gone out of control. Now, for these deflationist people out there who believe in deflation, and they believe that their dollar is going to become worth more because of all this, well, they look back to the Great Depression era, and they say, well, that happened during the Great Depression. The dollar went up in value, and prices fell, and people would work all day for 50 cents, and they picture all this dollars that they're hoarding right now, and they're thinking to themselves, hey, it's going to go the same way it went during the Great Depression, because they hear talk out there that excites them when they hear talk about how this is like the Great Depression. And yes, in certain respects it is. The fact that the GDP during the Great Depression fell to 26.7% negative. And right now the GDP is at 40% negative. So it's 14 points stronger than it was in the Great Depression as a downwards blow. Unbelievable that a few months ago the U.S. GDP was around, well, actual GDP was around zero, but they were saying it was on the plus side, and now we're 40 points to the negative. That's an unbelievable drop in the economy. But the big difference between this time and the Great Depression is during the Great Depression they were on a gold standard, so they were limited how much money that they could print to try to get us out of deflation. Now, they don't have any limits, and they're telling you, hey, you know what? We don't have any limits here. We can print as much as we want, as much as we need. And, this cannot continue without creating massive amounts of inflation. And inflation is a self-feeding cycle once it gets really started, And there's another part to this that makes it even more powerful, is the fact that people are staying home. Factories aren't producing anything. People are period not producing anything because they're all at home, in this lockdown sort of thing, or a lot of the economy. Not all the economy, but a lot of the economy is locked down. They're not producing anything, but they're still consuming. And so what this is going to do is it's going to put pressure. It's going to put pressure on the goods that are still available for sale. Demand. So you're going to have shortages of supply and high demand. What does that do? Well, that raises prices. And then you got the Fed out there on the other side giving people excess money, more than a lot of people are actually making more money right now than they were making back when they were working. Because the unemployment, they've tacked on money onto the unemployment, But that's not going to last. You can't live on unemployment the rest of your life. It runs out after a few months. And a lot of people, can't get on it. they're finding it impossible to get on the phone. They're calling over and over and over again. They're trying to apply, and it's just everything's clogged. The system's clogged. We are in such a big mess right now. And, Bitcoin has been slowly gaining ground bit by bit. You look at it last year. It was like 3,700, I think it was, or something like that. And now it's about $10,000 a piece. It's been slowly plodding along, gaining ground quietly in the background where nobody can notice it. It's going to be noticed at a certain point. They're going to say, hey, this asset class is doing rather well. Money managers and things like that are going to say, hey, this asset class is doing really well. Do we want to go for gold, physical gold? Or do we want to go for another asset class that's out of the dollar that's easier to buy for us? I mean, when I'm talking about money managers and stuff. Now, for the average person out there, it's still a little bit difficult to figure out. There's a little bit of a learning curve and stuff to buying Bitcoin. And for the average person, it might be actually easier for them to go to their local coin store and buy themselves a few silver eagles or something like that, But Bitcoin's a little bit difficult to figure it out how to actually buy it and then transfer it to their wallet and then save their wallet off and everything. All that. It's a little bit of a learning curve for the average person. But for these guys that work with money on a daily basis in the financial system, it's not hard for them at all. In fact, they've been buying Bitcoin. They've been dabbling in it. They know exactly how to proceed. It's a click of a mouse for them. What's difficult for them is buying physical gold, especially with the kind of money we're talking about here. The going through that whole procedure, trying to allocate the physical gold, is what the difficult part for them is. And so when it comes time that they want to get out of the dollar because they're scared, they want a safe haven asset, they have a choice to make: gold or cryptocurrency. They know, they're not stupid. They know if they buy the SLV or the GLD or a exchange traded fund of gold, they know that it's going to be settled in paper. And if they want to get out of the dollar, they're smart enough to know that's not what they want. So what they want is they want the physical metal. But then they run into that block for them, which is a block wall, is allocation of the physical metal. For them is a blank wall. It is really, really difficult. That is something that's a hurdle that for a big money manager or somebody who's in deep in finance and they're dealing with not just small amounts of money, they're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. That allocation hurdle for them to actually allocate the physical metal is a monster of a hurdle. To take delivery of the physical metal is a monster of a hurdle for them. Just think about it for a minute. What a hurdle it is. And say they want to allocate, say, $50 million. And they want to get that $50 million out of the dollar and into a safe haven asset that's de-dollarized, that's safe from the dollar if the dollar's going down. Okay, so the dollar's going down because the Fed's just printing it into oblivion. The hyperinflation is in the beginning phase. And you know what? We're entering into the beginning phase right now. So the hyperinflation's in the beginning phase, right? And they know it. They want to get out of the dollar. They ran into that smack wall of allocations. So $100 million or whatever they're going to spend on it. Now they got to allocate $100 million worth of gold? Just exactly how are they going to do that? They got to take possession of it. This, for the average person out there like you or me or somebody else, that's not a problem, taking possession. We go to our local coin store and we buy a few eagles, a handful of eagles. A handful of silver eagles, and that's not a problem for us to allocate it. But for these guys, they're buying $100 million worth. allocation is a monster of a problem for them. And, they might just look at Bitcoin and say to themselves, we're not going to bother trying to we can actually allocate the Bitcoin because it just transfers into our wallet. Say they want $100 million worth of Bitcoin. Well, that would be a pretty big purchase for Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins would that be? 100 million. $10,000 a piece. Let's see, 100,000 would be 10. 100 would be, what, hundreds of million? I'm figuring right there. And so if they want 100 million, it would be, my brain's just farting on me. Anyway, it'd be quite a few Bitcoins. But, they could just get it sent over. Let's see. $1 million is what, 100? So 10 million's 1,000. It would be 10,000 Bitcoins. Is that right? Am I figuring that right real quick? I'm just trying to figure it off my head. I think it'd be 10,000 Bitcoins. And so the $100 million worth, wouldn't it be 10,000? No, it wouldn't be 1,000. I'm getting all mixed up in my brain right now, trying to do it in my brain real quick, But anyway, it's quite a few Bitcoins, but it can be done. It can be sent across the internet. And what if we get multiples of these guys out there who suddenly want to allocate real Bitcoins across the internet? What if we get a whole bunch of them that all of a sudden they see the dollar losing value very rapidly, boom, 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 and the velocity of money going through the roof, and this it could happen really fast when it does finally happen, and so the dollar's losing value daily. I don't know. It could start losing a penny a day of its purchasing power that it has left. You know what I mean? And so these guys could really be in a panic to get out. They could all flood into Bitcoin and not into gold and silver, because gold and silver are the allocation problem, because they're dealing with massive amounts of money. Not only that, it might come down to where even at your local coin store you can't allocate gold and silver. It might all sell out. When we're in that kind of an environment where the dollar's losing value that rapidly, and people are going to want, that's called a crack up boom, and people just might go in there and just clean out all the local coin stores. They might clean out ATMEX and Kitco and all of these big retail sellers that sell gold and silver over the internet, like Gold Silver Bull and all these ones. They could clean them all out overnight. And it could be impossible to even allocate it, but you'll still be able to buy crypto. And you can imagine the amount of money that might pour into such a small amount of Bitcoins. It might run out of Bitcoins. I mean, the Bitcoins that are real, not Bitcoins held on the exchange, but Bitcoins that are real, are limited in supply. Anything. I don't care if it's an electronic product. If it's limited in supply and you get too many people wanting it all at the same time, wanting to buy it, well, the price would just go through the roof. And they would all just pile in, and there wouldn't be any available to sell. Because the people that have them, if they're watching the price go up that fast, they're not going to sell until they hit a certain price point. And gosh knows where that price point would be. Because once you get into a rally like that, people are going to wait to sell. And it might be a big long list of people wanting to buy, but can't get any. Because Bitcoin, even though it's an electronic product, it's limited in supply, and that is very rigid. That's a hard limit. It could just go so that there's so many bids, and there's no coinage available. And so then what would they do? Well, I can tell you guys exactly what they'd do. They would start moving down the list of the other altcoins and buying them out. If you can imagine something like that actually happening. and the price actually going up that fast. They will go down the list until they find a coin that is available, and they could clean it right out, just like they cleaned out Bitcoin. I mean, we're talking about such amazing amounts of money here. Capital. I mean, the Fed just created $3 trillion. That's 3,000 billion, and they're probably going to create another 3 trillion in the next week or two, or whatever. They've gone all hog wild, just creating money. That money's going to have to find a home, especially if this whole thing flips and everybody wants to get out. We could see that there's only it's very narrow way out of the dollar. If you really want to get free of the dollar and into some other asset class, up until just a few years ago, there was only gold and silver. It was the only avenue out. Now there's cryptocurrency. But if you can imagine all of that liquidity, basically, everything in the world is priced in dollars. All the value of everything. So if you can imagine all the liquidity in the world, the value of everything, the value of your car, the value of your house, transferring from the dollar and into non-dollar. So the non-dollar stuff, Bitcoins, cryptos, gold, silver is all going up, an elevator going up to the moon because the wealth is all being transferred into it. And the dollar is on its way down to zero because that's what the dollar is going to go to in the end, zero. So it's a wealth transfer. Basically, the value of everything would be transferred over into these non-dollar denominated assets if they lose control over the dollar. And, you know, I just see it moving in this direction. With the Fed coming out and announcing that we're going to print unlimited amounts of this stuff. You know, and as the economy slides down, you know, the virus started it, but the virus is not going to finish it. The economy just keeps sliding down lower and lower, even after this virus is gone. What they've started now, they've started a process in place. It's like a self-perpetuating, self-feeding cycle in the economy where they have to keep the core going. They realize that they have to keep the core going. They can let some of the periphery, the outer parts of the economy, go down. Like maybe a few banks, businesses, and stuff like that. They can let that go down. But all the core part, they have to keep going at any cost. It doesn't matter how much money they have to create, they have to keep that core going. Because if they let the core go down, we would go back to a primitive lifestyle very quickly. And we can't survive in a primitive lifestyle. We just can't survive. We're not equipped to survive in a primitive lifestyle. We're not like our forefathers or great forefathers who could live in a cave. We wouldn't survive. You know, I mean, okay, there's some people out there who think that, well, hey, you know, I could survive. But they're going along, say they're out there and they're doing their surviving. Somebody else is going to come along and going to take it from them if we live in that kind of a lifestyle, because that's basically a free-for-all, because there wouldn't be any controls left in the system anymore in that kind of an environment. So it's a dead end. And ultimately, there would be survivors of something like that, but they're probably the ones who would have three things that they would need to survive. One is one hell of a good hiding place. Two is a means of self-protection. Three is they would need to have a water and a food source. And even then, they would have to be very lucky. That's what would happen if they let the core go down. So they're going to keep the core supported. But when the rest of the system is collapsing, the outer peripheries is collapsing, to keep the core supported requires pumping massive amounts of money into it. Basically, the system is really dead right now, but it's like it's on life support. And, you know, they're just trying to keep it supported and keep it running. This is the perfect environment they're creating for cryptocurrencies and gold and silver. But, I've said this before, and I've said it over and over and over again, that we're going to see gold and silver disappear. And we could be right on the verge of getting ready for that to happen, for that, what I've said, to be fulfilled. That gold and silver will disappear. You won't be able to buy the real physical. And there's still going to be massive amounts of money out there chasing the home, trying to get out of the dollar. So what are they going to do? They're kind of squeezed into this, where if they want to get out of the dollar, and they can't get any gold and silver, there's only one other way, and that's cryptos. I mean, it's kind of like one of these. There's a few things in life sometimes that happen. Most people have something called normalcy bias. And they can't see something, it might be right in front of them, but they won't see it because it's just too hard to believe that could happen. And for cryptocurrency to do what I've been just saying it might do, the elements are in place. I've explained it to you guys, how all the elements are in place for it to happen. But it's kind of one of those things. It's a little bit hard to believe until you actually see it happen. But like I've thoroughly explained it to you guys, how the elements are in place, pointing toward that this could actually happen. It is a possibility, in the realm of possibilities. I'm sure there's they have this I think called multiplicity theory, where there's all these different worlds out there in the time space, in the continuum, that where each possibility is played out on all these different worlds, almost like time loops, and I'm sure there's probably a world out there where every different possibility is taking place. So there's probably a world out there right now where cryptocurrency is the currency, and it wiped out the dollar. And maybe we're on that timeline right here. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. We'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.